In a new city with a new career, just 2 months after graduating college, Kira was ready to finally find herself. A popular girl, a cheerleader, and a sorority girl. Kira never felt uncomfortable. Both beautiful and smart, the porcelain-skinned natural blonde managed a 4.0 GPA throughout college and naturally landed a high-paying job at a marketing firm 3 states away. She became familiar with the city by virtue of numerous after-work cocktails at all the upscale bars in town. But the 22-year-old became restless. Would she live a life of the same old, where young hotshot financial planners try to buy her a drink and creep their way into her pants? Kira was confident and smart. She knew where that would lead. Probably pregnant and forgetting about my own plans, she always thought. She realized she lived a life of privilege and comfort. She just didn't know if that would truly fulfill her. The night Kira found what she was looking for started off the same as the previous 5 Fridays. She stayed until close, for lack of better options. Still bored and frustrated, it seemed like a good idea to explore a different route back to her apartment. The air was still warm as the summer months were fading, but a brisk breeze blew by the tall city buildings. The streets all looked the same. Kira was fine being lost. She sort of enjoyed it, but she was definitely headed in the wrong direction. She decided to take a right at the next alley. To her surprise, down this alley, there was one door with a small neon sign affixed to the concrete wall above it. Peeking in, she saw low lights and heard a different style of music, not the typical top 40. She went in. Inside was a curious mix of people. No suits, collared shirts, or khakis. It wasn't a college bar either. As she passed the doorman, dancing cages came into view. Leather pants and a matching tube top on each of the 3 dancers. Well, this is different, she thought. She got her usual vodka soda at the bar, noticing a man walking with a lead attached to the woman just behind him. Finally, it clicked. Kira was fascinated. She understood where she was, but could not at all keep her eyes from roaming around taking in the sights. A tap on the shoulder broke Kira's trance.
First timer, I see.
The pleasant but monotone voice came from a very clean-cut man, dark hair and piercing eyes. The man standing to her left smirked at her surprise.
How did you know?
Kira's response was laced with a false sense of confidence and wit. The man looked her up and down. Her fitted collared shirt and pencil skirt clearly indicated a conservative, if not stylish, office attire.
Look at you. You stick out like a sore thumb. Do you like what you see?
Kira took a few seconds to answer. She was scrambling for answers in her head.
Yeah,
The words never came out.
I understand. Unfortunately, it's last call. You have to be a member if you want to stay.
Oh, the feeling of exclusivity. It sounded a little cheesy, but it did pique her interest.
And what are the benefits of membership? Where's the application?
Kira thought she was being smart.
I've seen you investigating. The real question is, which end of that leash would you be on?
Kira wasn't often caught off guard. She thought for a brief second and blurted out.
On the collar side.
It came out more enthusiastic than intended, but her new friend wasn't fazed.
I was almost sure of that. I bet you're used to taking charge at work and in life. I bet things come very easily to you. But that's not exactly what you seek, is it?
The man's words hit her like a ton of bricks. As the crowd started to file out of the small club, the man invited her to sit at one of the tables on the opposite side of the bar.
I'm Paul, by the way. Now, I need to be sure you're not drunk. It's important to me that you know what you're getting into, and you agree to submitting when we go upstairs.
He pulled out his phone and pointed at Kira.
What's your name, and what are your plans for this evening?
Kira felt a lump in her throat.
My name is Kira Sullivan, and I'm going upstairs with you.
She couldn't believe her own voice. She felt her body try to get up and leave, but she felt a rush of adrenaline hold her in place. This was something new. Paul smiled from behind his phone.
And what will you be doing upstairs?
Kira didn't have an answer. She looked around for clues. Is he going to fuck me? What would I be doing?
I'm going to do whatever you want.
As the words left her mouth, she felt a warm rush between her legs.
Good. And you know if you're uncomfortable at all, you can leave any time.
Kira nodded. Paul grabbed Kira's hand and led her upstairs. The room was easily the size of the club below and surprisingly well lit. About a dozen people were already there, some still with drinks. There was a man making conversation with another, but just to his right, a woman in a lacy black bra and panty set, kneeling next to him with her hands clasped behind her. Kira felt the excitement again in her pussy. She'd never been so turned on without even being touched.
Are you ready? We're about to begin and introduce you to our members. You can say no at any time, but I imagine since you've never done this before, you might be uncomfortable at times. Just know you're safe and you don't have to be here if you don't want to be.
Paul had just melted Kira into a puddle. She knew she would do anything he asked. She was enthralled, but truly felt safe to let go.
I'm ready.
She couldn't believe what she was getting herself into, but she was excited in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. Paul's voice boomed.
Okay, everyone. We have a new member to introduce. Let's gather around.
He brought Kira to the open area in the middle of the room and left her for a moment. The lighting in the room changed. Kira could no longer see the faces around her, and she felt like she was on stage. Paul was back by her side.
Let's begin. We'd like to welcome new members of our club with a short interview. After tonight, we will vote to approve your membership. If you'd like to continue, please state your name.
Kira froze. Voting? Membership?
My name is Kira.
Her voice rang with false confidence. Paul's voice startled her.
Why are you interested in this lifestyle?
That was a good question Kira had to think about. She had entered the club no more than 30 minutes ago.
Since you're having a hard time concentrating, maybe we can make you more comfortable.
Paul's hands reached around from behind and found the top button of her blouse. Her mind began racing. Trying to put together a coherent thought that would please the crowd was proving impossible. By the time her blouse was open, she finally blurted out,
I liked the girls on a leash.
Paul pulled her shirt off her shoulders.
Did you just like the way it looked, or did you want to be one of those girls?
He was still behind her. She felt his hands on her hips.
I think I wanted to be one.
His hands moved to the middle of her back, then to the zipper of her skirt. He took that off too.
Very good.
He replied.
That means giving up control of this beautiful body so others can enjoy it. Does that sound good to you?
Kira's face felt hot. What was she about to do? After a deep breath, a whispered
Yes.
escaped.
Just a few more questions before we begin, Kira.
Before we begin, half naked in front of a dozen strangers, about to let go of the power her body had always yielded her. What could there be to discuss? She nodded. She felt the tug at her bra strap.
Do you agree that this body is property of the group and given with full consent?
Her bra straps fell off her shoulders. The cool air of the open room combined with her soaked thong caused her nipples to grow hard. She stared at the faceless crowd.
Yes.
She replied instinctually, letting her excitement speak for her. Paul walked in front of her.
A perfect 36C, everyone.
Kira heard muffled whispers and giggles from the group. She felt her breathing speed up and adrenaline rushing through her veins. Paul circled back behind her, reaching around with both hands, grabbing her tits and squeezing firmly.
Please, tell us what you think your best physical feature is. What do others want so badly?
Kira knew the answer, easily, always the subject of catcalls and attempted flirts.
My ass.
She replied strongly. Without warning, Paul spun her around by her shoulders. He walked back behind her and rubbed each cheek quickly.
I think we can all see why.
Kira heard shuffling around for a moment before she felt a grab at her left wrist. A soft, probably leather, cuff strapped tightly, and then the right.
Kira, are you ready now?
Her mind raced. Her pussy was throbbing in anticipation. A weak
Yes.
escaped as she felt his hand pull down her little thong.
Kira, I want to make one thing clear here. You are giving us your body to play with, but you are promised and entitled to your own pleasure as well.
All of a sudden, Kira felt nervous on another level. She had never been so helpless and vulnerable. She was naked and cuffed behind her back, in front of a group of strangers. At the same time, Paul's mention of her own pleasure kept her excitement and attention off of her dubious position. A harsh snap on her ass broke her trance. A sharp sting followed by a very slow burn on her left cheek, and then again on the right. With her jumps of excitement, she realized how incredibly wet she was already.
Spread your legs.
Paul's demand was more pointed as she felt his shoe kick softly at the inside of her ankles. Kira complied, but then felt another kick.
Wider.
Her feet were past shoulder width, but she stretched further until it became difficult to balance. She felt another leather cuff on her right ankle, and then Paul pulling her left ankle just a bit more before the other cuff. She looked down and could see a metal bar in between the cuffs, holding her legs open. Kira could feel the air on her cunt, and the wetness sent a shiver through her body, which was otherwise flushed. So turned on, Kira felt intoxicated. She felt a jerk at her handcuffs and a loud click. Within a few seconds, she felt the cuffs pull upward, lifting her wrists and bending her over. She felt her arms point up to the ceiling. She gasped as her arms reached an uncomfortable point. Looking upside down between her legs, she could see some figures in the crowd and a long droplet of her juices hanging from her clit.
My, darling. You seem to be enjoying this.
She felt Paul's finger between her lips, sliding slowly up and down.
When was the last time you let someone inside you?
Kira's mind was scrambled, trying to remember her last encounter shortly after moving into her new place.
About a month ago?
She had no idea if that's what he wanted to hear, and for some reason, she actually cared whether it was an acceptable answer.
Good. And were you this sloppy for him?
She only wished.
No, not even close.
Paul then grabbed her ass cheeks in each hand, pulling them wide.
Did he get your ass too?
Kira's arms and shoulders were straining as they hung, but she couldn't feel it. Her pussy controlled her thoughts.
No, never done that.
After a few seconds of silence, Paul asked,
Can your girl help us for a moment, William?
A moment later, a petite, dark-haired girl emerged, quickly kneeling at Kira's left ankle. Into view came a wand, which the girl held to Kira's clit. As soon as the switch flipped, Kira could feel herself tense. She felt Paul spread her open again, and two fingers pushed deep inside her. She was so juicy, but was helpless to stop it pouring out. The vibrating wand splashed a mess on her inner thighs.
Now you're telling me that no one has had the pleasure of enjoying your hottest asset?
He pulled his fingers from her pussy and traced them around her asshole, using her own juices to wet her.
No, I never wanted to.
Paul began to put pressure on.
And what about now? Do you want to now? I think everyone else wants to.
Kira didn't care. Her ass was tensed, but she wanted to please him. She wanted to please all these eyes she knew were watching her make a mess and on the verge of a full-body orgasm.
Yes.
She was ready. Without hesitation, she felt a finger push inside. Her instinct to clench around his finger faded quickly as the wand switched to a higher gear. Her scream echoed in the big quiet room. Kira was completely out of control of her own body. She felt her pussy rush with heat as Paul's finger plunged into her ass. Her legs shook as her orgasm overcame her. She tried to join her knees together, as the intensity was too much to bear, but the bar held her open. She felt a rush of more juice splash on the wand, and then her legs. The orgasm would not stop. It was all she could get out. In what seemed like an eternity, the girl in the wand had left her. Paul slowly rubbed and massaged her ass. She was finally able to get her breath back.
Now, Kira, thank you. We will release you now. We will vote on your performance, and I will call you tomorrow. If you join us, there will be plenty more of this for us all to enjoy.
Paul lowered her cuffs and released the spreader bar from her ankles. The lights went down at center stage and up in other areas of the club.
What do you think? Did you enjoy yourself?
He handed Kira her clothing and her purse. She was partly embarrassed as she got dressed in front of him, but also curiously empowered.
That was amazing.
Her honesty was clear. She had never had an experience that played with her mind just as much as her body. Paul escorted her to the door, saying,
If it were up to me, we wouldn't need a vote. I doubt that will be an issue anyway. I really hope you come back.
He opened his phone, and after taking her number, he unlocked the door to the alley where she came in. He kissed her on the cheek and promised a phone call tomorrow afternoon. Kira's walk home was quick, but so many thoughts raced through her mind. It felt like it took forever. Finally collapsing in her bed, her mind wandered. What could be next? It's nice not knowing.